All right, guys, what's up? What's up? You guys know what it is. Welcome back. But today's gonna be a little different. I normally do not do introductions, but today we're gonna do something a little different called teaching you guys wholesaling. Today is gonna be a little how-to section of how to do some real estate wholesaling for beginners or for just individuals who are struggling to get their first deal. As you guys may or may not know, though I am not recently new to wholesaling, I still call myself a beginner because I haven't been doing this for more than a year. I've only started really vigorous like about since November, maybe October. I really started hard body, and then I started recording for you guys and showing you exactly how I do my cold calls and how I try to lock down deals and make offers every day. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel and you haven't checked out those calls, you haven't checked out those videos, make sure you go and check out those videos after you've watched this whole video, because then it will put the whole package for you together. So make sure you watch this whole entire video so that you can get the grasp of how I do my cold calls and how I go about making offers in general. Without further ado, let's get to this learning. So what is real estate wholesaling? What is real estate wholesaling? Real estate wholesaling is hard to define. So I'm just gonna give you guys an example. Let's say I have a property for $100,000. I get it on the contract for $100,000 from a seller. What I will go ahead and do, I'm not the owner of that property yet. I'm the owner of that contract, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna flip that contract to a buyer, a cash buyer who would pay $110,000, $120,000, $130,000 for that property. And then we will use a title company to make this whole transaction work. What would happen is the title company will make sure that the seller, the property owner, will receive their $100,000 her or him and I agreed to, and then the $30,000 extra, $20,000, $10,000 that the buyer paid will be paid to me. So the buyer paid $110,000. I will get $10,000 to my account, and the seller will receive $100,000 into their account. And that's the most simplest way of wholesaling. We're basically the middleman in between the seller of an individual that needs to sell their house and a person, a rich landlord or a fix and flipper investor that wants to buy more houses. And we merge these two together. We bring these two entities together and we just work for a fee. That's all. It just so happens that when we do get these properties and we do happen to get a good deal, our fee is a pretty beautiful, nice $10,000, $15,000, even $20,000 wholesale fee. Now, a lot of you are asking, how the fuck do I get these properties under contracts? I got you. I know. That's difficult and it's a lot to process, but I'm gonna put this in the most simplest terms for us broke or beginner wholesalers. Now, the first thing you want to do in real estate wholesaling, and it's the very most important thing in all of real estate wholesaling. If you want to be a real estate wholesaler, you must find motivated sellers. What is a motivated seller? A motivated seller is an individual who is in a distressed situation or needs to sell their properties. It's very different from a seller who wants to sell their property. An individual who wants to sell their property, wants to get their highest price, is not really in a distressed situation, doesn't have a timetable to sell, and doesn't really care less about when they're gonna sell it. They just want the maximum money for their property. Now, an individual who needs to sell their house is in a distressed situation. Perhaps they owe money to taxes, they owe money to the county, maybe they have recently perhaps lost their jobs, or maybe they're moving. Perhaps the property owner has passed away and has given it to their son, the kid, a kinfolk, and they don't want to deal with it. Someone who no longer wants anything to do with that property. That's when we as wholesalers come along and help out the sellers. As a wholesaler, you must always remember that we are in the situation of helping out sellers. The more of a problem solver you are, the more you're able to earn more money. The better you're able to help these individual sellers sell their home, the more money you make. But you cannot just think about in terms of money. The more problems you help solve, then that equates to money. So if you think of yourself as a problem solver, not as a wholesaler, you'll be making a lot more money. So how do you find these motivated sellers? A lot of different ways. For if you're a beginner and like me, when I started, I had no money. I started this with $0. But when I was broke, I had more passion than money. I'm telling you guys, it's all about passion. It's all about focus, and it's all about determination. If you're just trying to half-ass this wholesaling thing, it's not going to work for you. I'm sorry, I'm just being real, but it's not. Half-assing anything in life is never going to work, and especially this. If you are like me when I started, you are going to start with Zillow, Redfin, and driving for dollars. These three things are going to be easier and essential for you. Why? Because all you need is some form of internet access and a phone. If you don't have a phone, you use a computer. If you don't have a computer, you may be in some trouble. But if you have a phone or access to a computer and Wi-Fi, you can easily do this. I'm gonna go ahead and log on to Zillow and just go ahead and find any distressed properties in your market. Again, you do not want to look for properties that are brand new, that are beautiful and ready to move in. You want to go ahead and find distressed properties that are in distressed condition. Same thing for if you're driving for dollars. If you're doing it virtually, if you're doing it locally, what you want to do, you want to go ahead and drive for dollars. Literally, if you don't have a car, get yourself a bike. If you don't have a bike, get yourself a little scooter. If you don't have a scooter, you walk. Whatever drives you to get your first wholesale deal, go the fuck after it. Massive action. This is what wholesaling is all about. Massive, massive action. And motivated sellers are out there. You just have to put in the action and find these sellers. You can also go to your county clerk's office. Your county clerk's office is very important. Again, I'm doing it virtually. I don't wholesale in New York City, which is where I'm from and where I reside. But for those of you who are in better markets to wholesale, please go ahead and utilize your county clerk's office. Go ahead and walk up there. Don't go in there dressed like a non-investor. Go ahead in there dressed type casual. I'm not saying go in a suit, but people judge you on your first appearance. People judge you based on how you look. I'm sorry, it's a part of life, but that's absolutely what it is. If you go in there and you're looking like a slum, asking for people's personal information, chances are the county clerk's office is going to be hesitant to give it to you, even though it's within your right to give you this list. It's public information to give you any tax delinquent list, any property owners that you need, any type of list like that from the county clerks. It's public information, but you must go the right way about it. But again, if you're doing this for free, your most important tools will be those Zillows, Redfin, driving for dollars, and even emailing your county clerk's office as well. So the type of list you want to utilize, you want to go ahead and utilize a tax delinquent list, pre-foreclosure list, foreclosures, code violations. But let's not forget those probates. Again, if you haven't viewed my code calling videos, make sure to watch this whole video and then skip over to my code calling videos so that you can put it all together and start your code calling today. Now that you have your motivated list, what do you do with this list? You start skip tracing and you start calling. What my favorite site I used to use was a site called TruePeopleSearch.com. TruePeopleSearch.com is a free engine online that gives you somewhat accurate phone numbers to these sites to give you address. You type in the address, type in the phone number or even the name, and it pops up for you. Through TruePeopleSearch.com, I've been able to close my first deal, though I will not lie to you guys. I'm never on this channel lie to you guys. It takes a lot of calls. Unless you're one of the lucky ones and build yourself a A1 fantastic list, it will take about 800 to 1,000 calls to get a real hot lead where an individual tells you, yes, I'm interested in selling. What do you got? Let's talk. It will take a good certain amount of calls. That's why it's very important for you guys not only to build a quality list, but also a long and love list. But do not wait until your list is 800 strong. No, start calling as soon as you got one. Hop on Zillow, call all those individuals that are in distressed condition. Call. The name of the game in this situation in wholesaling is quantity, guys. We have to make calls. I go for at least 100 calls every day because I do work a 9 to 5. Again, you can do this even if you work a 9 to 5. Okay, so no bullshitting, no excuses. Now, what happens after you build the list and an individual says, yes, I absolutely need to sell this property. Talk to me. What's your offer? You make him an offer. He says, great, let's do it. Now you're stuck. Oh shit, he said yes. Oh my God, what do I do now? You hop on and you find yourself a contract. Now, I'm not doing any paid partnerships, but I do got to give a shout out to Zach Ginn, Jerry Norton, all those guys, because they helped me out tremendously on YouTube, and they even have free contracts that you can use. I'm not an individual to give legal advice, so I'm not out here giving you legal advice, but they have contracts, they have agreements that you can use, utilize, and you can adjust to your liking or to your states where it is legal. After you get this agreement signed, you're going to need a title company. Okay, a title company is one of the most important things you need to utilize, and you need to find a good one. How do you find a title company? What is a title company? Who? A title company, it's the third party that's going to generate this transaction for the three of you guys. Well, yeah, for the three of you guys, which is going to be the seller, you, and the buyer. So what you're going to do is you're going to send this agreement and whatever agreement you have with the cash buyer over to the title company. What the title company is going to do, they're going to read this agreement and know exactly what to do with it. They're going to know exactly where the funds need to go, and they're going to be able to distribute those funds and give that cash buyer their clean, clear title under their name and move on. In some states, title companies are not utilized. Like in New York City, we use attorneys. That's why I don't really deal with New York City. It's a lot of funky stuff when it comes to real estate wholesaling and stuff like that. So I stay away from New York City. But in states like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, etc., you are able to utilize a title company. But make sure you guys find a good title company. How do you find a good title company? Same way you find anything else in life. Google. Google. All you have to type in Google is good friendly investor title company in your market. What's going to happen, a whole bunch of different title companies are going to show up, and you're going to physically pick up your phone and call every title company there until you find one that works for you. And do not lie to these title companies. They're there to help you. They're there to make sure your deal helps and goes through, because they make money at the end. So please let them know that you are a wholesaler and you do plan on sometimes signing or double closing agreements. And you're just calling them to see if they can help you out with that. Some title companies do help you. Some title companies don't assist. Now you want to work with those that absolutely do and are friendly. Remember, at the end of the day, a title company can literally make or break your deal. You get it to the title company and they're rude, they're disrespectful, they don't know what they're doing, they're late, they're tardy and everything, they don't have a good reputation, they can literally fuck your deal up. Talking about cash buyers, it's what you're going to do during the contract phase or after you get the contract signed. What I like to do when you find a cash buyer to buy your deal is to make sure that you're marketing about 20% of the time. So when you're marketing properties, when you're making cold calls to sellers asking if they want to buy their house, you're marketing yourself. So what you want to do when you market to buyers is make sure that you're marketing correctly and to the correct buyers. How do you do that? Same way you did your title company, but you won't be using Google this time. What you'll be using is Zillow, Redfin, but my favorite site to use to find cash buyers is Facebook. Yes, you heard it right. Facebook, yo. Facebook is one of the best tools right now for wholesalers. Facebook not only helps you find cash buyers, but it lets you network with other wholesalers. Maybe even if you like to JV, which is called a joint venture. Perhaps you don't have a property, but you know a buyer that's buying in your market. Or you have a property, but you don't have a buyer that's buying in that market. You can do something called joint venture, which is what we call in the wholesale world a JV opportunity. And JVing is a great way to start making money and even get your first deal on the property. You're going to go into Facebook and you're just going to type estate investor in your market, and that's all. Very simple, very easy, and start reaching out to anyone in that Facebook group that seems like they're a cash buyer. Now, very important when it comes to cash buyers, you want to vent out your cash buyer with this deal. So what you want to do with this individual is you want to call that individual. You want to make sure you hop on a call. Do not do email blasting. Emails are very slow, they're very tardy, and most likely probably send it out to another realtor. Again, there's no problem working with realtors as long as you know that they're a realtor. There's a lot of people on Facebook as well pretending to be cash buyers when they wholesalers or realtors and maybe try to steal your deals. So that's why you got to make sure that you have your contract signed and sent out to that title company to make sure that your buyers or fake wholesaler or something might steal your deal from under you. So what I like to do is immediately give a phone call to my cash buyer and just touch base with them. Let them know about the deal I have and what other properties they've bought. Have they worked with wholesalers before? And if they have a problem with ever us making an assignment fee. Give them a great example. Ask them, hey, I'm not saying I'm making $100,000 on this deal, but if I was making $100,000 on this deal, will you have a problem with it? And if they have a problem with it, that's not a cash buyer you want to deal with it. A lot of cash buyers, well, all of my cash buyers that I deal with never have a problem with a wholesaler making money, because at the end of the day, if you bring them a good deal that works for them, it does not matter what we make. Now, with your cash buyer, it's essential that you communicate to them that they must minimum deposit an EMD, which is called an earnest money deposit, of $10,000 with the title company. This deposit not only allows you and makes sure that you get paid for this deal, regardless if it closes or not, but it also certifies that the cash buyer is legit and it's real and it's ready to go. In the event that the cash buyer does not close, that $10,000 earnest deposit gets drawn to your account, so you still win. But absolutely by no chance in hell can you go into a deal with a low EMD or no EMD. No, absolutely not. Always EMD minimum of $5,000 depending on the deal, but always I like to go for $10,000. A cash buyer should never have a problem with depositing the EMD of $10,000. If they're legit and they like the deal and they're all in on the deal, they will deposit that $10,000 the next day, the next morning, ready to go. But it takes me to my next point. Usually, I don't like to assign any contracts over $15,000. So what I will do is something called a double close. The difference between assigning a contract and a double close is when you're signing a contract, you will be getting all of your money. So if you got a $20,000 difference fee, assignment fee, you will be receiving that whole $20,000 in assignment. But the one con is that the seller is going to see it on the HUD that you have made money, 20,000, 15,000, and the buyer also will see that you have made money. Again, by now your cash buyer would not have a problem, especially if you're signing, you're going to let them know, hey, I'm making $15,000, $10,000 on this. But I do not like to assign any contracts over $15,000. Why? Because it may slow down the process, or it may kill your deal if the seller sees you making a ton of money on that deal, or the buyer sees that you're making $40,000, $50,000 on a deal. Even though individuals know that they have a good deal in their hand, they may get a little apprehensive if they see you making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on one deal in such a short amount of time. And especially 100% a seller will absolutely cancel their deal if they see you making $20,000, $30,000, $45,000, $50,000 on a deal. So what I like to do, I have a rule of thumb, is I do not assign any contracts over $15,000. I do what's called a double closing. Now, a double closing is a little bit more complex, but it's nothing that your title company cannot handle. What would happen in a double closing is that you will find a third-party individual that will lend you that money. Again, this individual needs proof that you have a good contract and a good deal. So how does that happen? You will need to send that individual to the title company. The title company will provide your borrower with the information from the buyer side and the seller side, and the information they will need to make sure that they can lend that money. You won't have to do much, but just know that it's a lot more expensive when you double close a deal than when you assign a deal. Again, when you assign a deal, you will receive your whole check. When you double close, it's going to be pretty expensive, say about $5,000. So if you're making about $20,000 assignment fee, you may be really looking at about $15,000. Now, what happens when this all comes together and how do you get paid? Title company. The title company is going to work all of this for you. That's why it's so essential to get yourself a good one, because when you send all that paperwork to the title company, it's now in their hands. It's up to them to work very efficient and keep you up to date with everything that's happening. I make sure that my title companies not only reach out to the buyer, but reach out to the sellers and keep them up to date. If not, call. They send emails and make sure that everything is up to date and everything is being well kept. And bada bing, bada boom, guys. I promise you guys, the hardest part of this whole wholesaling process is staying committed and sticking to it. Most people who do not succeed in wholesaling are because they quit. Anyone who puts in work, anyone who grinds it out, will absolutely succeed. It took me about a month and a half when I first started to get my first deal, But then after that, it's just been rolling. So I just decided, let me take this more serious and upload content to help you guys out and help myself too. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't caught up on those cold calls, make sure to go do so. I'll catch you guys on the next time. Good luck.